Hey everyone. So today I'm going to talk about two different modes that you can use with your Digitakt that you can use to perform or while sequences are playing. And those are chromatic mode and mute mode. Let's start off with mute mode. Mute mode is a way that you can mute specific tracks to make up arrangements on the fly. You get there by pressing function and bank, because you can see mute mode is here in yellow or orange. When you do that, all of your trigs will light up green. If you press it twice, they'll all light up purple. This is one thing that a lot of people found confusing is what is the difference between purple and green? Basically, if you are on purple, then it will only mute tracks on the active pattern. And if you're on green, that will mute the tracks. And if you change pattern, whatever track you muted will stay muted. I'll show you some examples as we go. But I should also note that if you just want to quickly mute something, you can access mute mode simply by pushing down the function button. But if you want to lock it in place, you have to press the bank button and then it stays locked and you can see it's orange right here. So let's see it in action. I've got a pattern set up that's kind of a synth wave type thing called synth drive. Let's listen to it. So it's a 64-step pattern. So that's it. That's how you use mute mode. You can just mute specific tracks by pushing them. And again, if you wanted to just mute a track quickly, if you were out of it, you could just quickly go in and out. But doing this latches it on. So just to demonstrate the difference between the purple and the green buttons, let's check it out. So I'm going to play this. And right now we're in pattern mute mode. So it's only going to mute for a pattern. So you'll see that it doesn't make a difference between green or purple if you're staying within one pattern. But if you're jumping between patterns, that's when it makes a difference. So I'm going to mute the bass drum and then I'll switch patterns. And here it comes. See, it turned right back on. It turned back on as soon as it switched patterns. And if we had been in the green mode, then it wouldn't do that. Watch, I'll change it back. And see, it stays muted. So that's really the only difference between green and purple is that it will stay muted as you change patterns with green, and it will turn back on if you're in purple. All right, so let's jump over to chromatic mode. Now, this is something that when I first got my Digitakt, I was super confused over what chromatic mode was because of the word chromatic. I'm a keyboard player. When I think of chromatic, I think of the chromatic scale as notes going in sequential order. What this is just basically a keyboard mode. So you can set up your synth to play like a keyboard. So I'm going to go to a new pattern called chroma mode. It's the same synthwave pattern as before, except for I don't have my sequences cleared for my 8th step. And actually, I'm going to turn my delay down on that step. And so you can hear it. So that's it. There's just that sort of lead part that's missing. So if I turn on chromatic mode, or as I like to call it, keyboard mode, You can turn it on this way, but you don't see anything. To bring up the menu, you press function and do a long press of track. And now we have our keyboard displayed. So let's go through what each of these things mean. The first one is just the scale. So I have it set to Dorian because that's the mode that I'm using for this song. When you go to this from just a normal setting, it would say chromatic. I've also set the root note down to C4 rather than C5, which is, I think, where it starts. Now, the keyboard fold, basically, if that's off, this forms like a little keyboard. So the top are the black keys, and these are the white keys. For me, that's hard to wrap my brain around because the black keys line up with the white keys, so I don't like to use those on sequencers like this. So I typically will go for something more like this, where it just plays up. Those are the octaves. I also think it makes it really nice when you're talking about where it fits nicely on a grid. So here with the Dorian mode, we actually have 2 octaves of range, whereas if we were in the keyboard fold off, then we would only have 1 octave. I do really like, though, just as a kind of teaching, learning thing, it's really nice to see the modes with the same root note. Oftentimes you see modes kind of change. You'll see it described as D Dorian and C Ionian because they share the same notes. But here you can actually see what the difference is in notes as you change modes. So like Dorian has these notes, and the difference between Dorian and Aeolian is really that sixth. So you can actually play around and learn a little bit of music theory and see what the differences are between a mode and a scale. But that's an aside. I personally really like to use fold with these types of sequencers. And now you can just make up melodies. And you can actually record when you're in chromatic mode. You can use the live recording mode to record what you're doing. So how you get that set up is you hold down record, and press play, and that will enter you into live recording mode. Now, I like to make sure I'm quantized first, so I'm going to go ahead and set it up out of the chromatic mode window so I can see it. And I'm quantized. I'm going to go back to chromatic mode. It's on. I'm going to put that delay back on. There you go. And that's how you use chromatic mode. So I hope you found this video helpful. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Once again, thanks so much to Perfect Circuit for sponsoring this video series. I put affiliate links in the descriptions of all my videos. Make sure to check them out if you're going to buy new gear. I'd really appreciate it. Every time you purchase through one of those links, I get a small tip. It's a great way to support my channel, and it doesn't cost you anything extra. In the next video, I'm going to start taking a deep dive into our parameter pages, and we'll start with the LFOs, and I'll explain what all of those mean, and the speeds, and the multipliers, and all that stuff. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time.